All right, class, this is our last challenge activity of the week, 6.9. And let's work through this problem together so we can get on with our weekend and do something more enjoyable than this. Just kidding. Coding is fun. You guys should be having fun by now. All right, so 6.9, what we're going to do is we're going to declare an array that's going to hold 5 values. We're going to loop over that array and set each one of those values to a value that is given to us by the user using the getNext input. Then what we're going to do is we're going to accept a 6th digit from the user, and that 6th digit is going to be used like a threshold. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, out of all those values that was just given to us, that last one, we want to output every digit that is less than or equal to that last one that the user given us. All right, so example. If the user gave us 50, 60, 140, 200, 75, those are the 5 values that was required, and then the last value they've given us was 100, we want to output every one of the first 5 digits that was less than 100. So that's why in here our program, our sample here says 50 got outputted, 60 got outputted because that's less than 100, 140 didn't get output because that's over 100, 200 is over 100, but then 75 got outputted. So let's go ahead and get started here. So the first thing we're going to do, just like on all of our other problems where we use a for loop, we're going to say integer, see I always spell that wrong, integer I. Then we're going to declare our array here. So INTEG integer array. This is going to be holding 5 values, and we're going to call this user values. And then we're going to declare one more. I almost forgot. INTEG integer upper threshold. Upper threshold is what we're going to store that 6th digit in. So let's start with our for loop. You guys should be professionals at for loops now, having got through the last couple problems here. So for, we're going to set I is going to start off at 0. And then our condition for this for loop, this is where our loop is going to keep going until I is less than, oops, I just noticed up here that you naming conventions there. Yep, there's my camel case. Sorry, it's just my OCD kicking in. For I equals 0, I is less than user values.size. And if you remember an array, even though it has 5 digits, we count from 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So our condition, as long as I is less than 5, we will keep looping. And then every time we loop, we're going to increment I equals I plus 1. So that way on the first loop, it is put in index 0, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3. So that way line 8 is going to be the first line of our code that is going to repeat in each iteration of that for loop. So what do we do first? Oh, that's right. We need to actually fill in the values here. So user values of each array is going to equal get next input, and that's it. And that looks exactly like the last problem, 6.8, where we looped over some values, and then what we did is, as we looped, we got the next input from the user and put them in. Maybe it wasn't 6.8, maybe I'm thinking of 6.7. All right, so upper threshold equals get next input. So this was going to be that 6th value that they're going to give us, which basically is going to be our threshold. So now we've collected all of our information from our users. So we have an integer I, an array of 5 values. We declared an integer, we're going to hold that 6th value. Here we do our for loop, where we loop over every index in that array, and we fill it with the value that they're going to give us. And then on that 6th digit, we're going to store that in that threshold variable. So now that we have everything we need, let's go ahead and write that special sauce of our application, what many call an algorithm here. So we're going to say for I equals 0, we want this one to start off at 0 too, and as long as I is less than user values.size, and then we're going to do the same thing like above, where I equals I plus 1. So basically, just like we did before, we're going to loop over it again. However, on this time when we loop, we are going to check to see if each value that we find as we loop over each one, we're going to check each one to see if that value is less than or equal to that threshold variable. And if it is, we'll output it. So if user values I is less than or equal to upper threshold 1, 2, 3. Remember, every line that's indented is going to execute if that if statement is true. We're going to put user values, and then remember here is whatever iteration in that index that we happen to be on, depending on what loop it is. So put user values to output. Don't forget it asks for a space between each number. Output, and then backspace, backspace. One thing I almost always forget as well is this little line down here where it says then output a new line. I don't know why this problem wants us to do that. You could do the whole thing correct, and if you forget to do this, you will get it wrong. /n, oops, and to output. All right, so I think that's everything. Let's check it out. I believe it's all right as long as I didn't type anything wrong. Check. Boom. We are done. We are ready to get on with our weekend. We have week 6 underneath our belt, and I am 100% excited to get on to week 7. This class is going by fast. If you have any questions on this or any of the other challenge activities that you've watched, reach out to me in the discussion threads, and I will be glad to take a deeper dive. But for now, pat yourself on the back. You've got through a difficult week in this course. Take care.